Hello and welcome to India Ideas. I am Gautam Roy. This is the show that stands for science and technology as well as innovation. And today we're talking about making India data agri-tech powerhouse, as its proponents say that it has the potential to not only double but triple farmers' income. Integration and intelligent use of data from different sources has the potential to, for instance, solve the farm credit problem of around 100 million farmers in India who remain out of the institutional credit net. Many more solutions are possible. And to find out how and what exactly are they, we have with us today Roly Jindal, co-founder Cropanalytics, which is focused on data-backed agri-tech, combining advanced modeling, remote sensing, machine learning, and meteorological domain expertise. Quite a mouthful, and we'll find out all about it as well. Prateek Basu is also with us, co-founder and CEO of SatSure, which integrates satellite data with other data sets to provide unique agri insights. And we also have Nipul Mehrotra with us, founder at the Agri Collaboratory, which is a not-for-profit agri think and do tank. Now, first, I'll come to you, Roly, just to find out, how you're trying to best leverage data from different sources to help India's farmers.
Thank you, Gautam, for that wonderful introduction. The idea behind all efforts in the agri domain, so to speak, first and foremost, is to alleviate farmer distress. But for this, the most important point is to identify the distressed farmer and to make him or her visible to decision makers. The definition of distress is also a question mark. How distress is measured, either based on farm yields or based on weather stress, these measurements are largely
or debt burden.
District level, for example, and they hide pockets of distress till it is too late. So the most important application of our work is to measure agrarian distress at high resolution, accurately and in near real time. This same process then allows channeling of farm credit, timely insurance payouts, connecting farmers to buyers, and all of this is possible only if good crop yield data are available, and we are at the forefront of providing.
Great. And what about you, Prateek? Because you're using satellite data as well, but your use of satellite data along with other data sets, you claim that this produces unique insights into India's agriculture and ways to solve the problems that are inherent in it at this juncture.
Right. So just to kind of elaborate on the exact point of distress when it comes to farm credit, according to many surveys, you will see that about 59% of farmers, they are unable to avail any kind of loan on time, often because of lack of proper information that is available with the banks. Now, when we use satellite images at a very high frequency, not only are we able to predict or diagnose what is the crop condition, what crop is being grown there, but satellites have a huge history, and risk is all about understanding the patterns of how the changes have happened, what's the productivity on the land. And these all data points help to reduce the friction between the banks and the farmers to deploy credit faster and also deploy additional credit than what could be otherwise possible simply using a scale of finance technique.
Okay. And Nipun, in your case, I believe you're working with startups like Roly's and Prateek's and many other stakeholders to put together the, you have the Agri Collaboratory, but you want to put them all together and get their data, not just their data, but their efforts as well together to ensure that, the income of farmers not just doubles, but triples in whatever timeline you've set for it. Just tell us more about it.
So, Gautam, first of all, thank you for having me. And you're right, the Agri Collaboratory is a not-for-profit ecosystem-led effort. We are a think and do tank, as you introduced, and we are an open alliance of stakeholders. So everybody is free to join and everybody is welcome. Our focus is to accelerate agricultural innovation, and we try to collaborate between the private sector ecosystem as well as with the government. Now, the reason we came up with this model is because we realize that unless Indian agriculture becomes sustainable, unless it becomes profitable, resilient, etc., India cannot position itself for sustained long-term economic growth Our challenge to go from 5 trillion when we get there to the next hallmark, which is 10 trillion, is not going to be possible unless Indian agriculture actually releases resources for the other sectors like manufacturing. Agriculture, as everyone knows, uses almost 50% of India's labor, 50% of India's land, 90% of India's water, and yet contributes about 15, 17% of the economy. So it definitely needs to get more sustainable and more profitable and more efficient. Now, we are working with, as you said, several stakeholders, and I'd maybe get a chance to talk about some of that a little bit later. But farm credit is the first focus area for all of us. How do we make credit available or make credit assessment available using data for 100 million farmers? How do we make it available at scale and at almost real time? So can we get a credit assessment done within an hour, so to speak, right? And then can we democratize the whole landscape? So can we put the farmer in the center of the ecosystem rather than the farmer chasing the lender? Can the farmer now be chased by the lenders, right?
Okay.
And of course, we are talking about small and marginal farmers. We're not talking about the top of the pyramid. We're talking about the bottom of the pyramid.
Right. Right. Now, Roly, I believe you're doing that work already, assessment, automatic almost assessment of farm credit worthiness. But just tell us what led you in that direction. You have a varied background yourself. So why did you feel that your attention was required in this particular area? Is it because it is largely still unexplored?
Well, not really unexplored, I'd say. And in fact, in the last 4 or 5 years, this has become a very kind of active sector. Several government schemes, such as Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana or the PM Kisan Yojana, a lot of these schemes have actually played the role of a catalyst in bringing agriculture into the financial mainstream, if I can say it like that. So crop finance, the lending sector or crop insurance, they have become a major revenue source for banking and insurance sectors. Now their close involvement in the agriculture space then, brings the rigor and discipline of the formal financial sector to this unorganized space. So then these sectors start demanding comprehensive, timely, accurate, high-resolution databases, such as yield estimates and, good weather data, good forecasts, good portfolio risk assessments. And therefore, a very structured kind of demand emerged for this requirement. And this matched our capability, which is why we are here.
Okay, sounds great. Now just tell us, how does it all work, Prateek? Because this involves remote sensing, this involves data from satellites, also a lot of AI and ML as well. How does it all come together?
Right. So, see, AI is a tool for scaling. And when we are looking at the farm sector, specifically farm credit, we have to support the banks and the farmers across India. And when you're looking at that scale, it is 150 million hectares, and that's a huge amount of data crunching required, which is where, the tools like AI, machine learning come into picture to help integrate different data streams. Number two, help analyze the patterns from the data streams in order to be giving the bank an information of the credit worthiness of a farmer. Number two, help him to monitor his customers at a farm level continuously and be able to provide them advisories if required whenever there is a potential for crop damage due to a weather event. So all of this put together makes AI an integral part of using on sensor data like satellite, drones, etc., to be able to extract insights.
All right. Now, just tell me, Nipun, like Roly herself said that, this is not exactly new. It's been around for some time and it's been accelerated by some of the policy decisions, especially in terms of giving insurance to farmers, is concerned from the government as well. But why hasn't it all been leveraged to the extent that it has already solved the problem of getting these farmers into the institutional credit net? And that's a huge number, 100 million, 10 crores.
I think both sides are right, Gautam. While lots of people have attempted to solve this, because it is probably the most critical issue to be focused on within agriculture. So while a lot of people have focused on trying to solve it, making credit available, Kisan credit cards is one innovation that the government came up with, etc., etc. The fact is that a majority of the farmers have to pay 20, 30, 40% rates of interest to borrow small amounts of money. And if they do not have land to mortgage, or if their land papers are not okay, or they do not have any other collateral like gold or jewelry, etc., then it's even more difficult for them to raise even 50,000 rupees that they need to buy seeds or buy fertilizer, etc. So while people have tried to solve it, the fact is it has not been solved.
Okay.
Now, and therefore, the attempt that we are making, and Satshore and Pradeep is a part of the task force, is a part of the stakeholders coming together in this one, is to see how can we take data from different sources, from say Roli, from Pradeep, from others, right, and including the government, and take it through a data exchange to try and create models, to try to create an image that a lender can see of the farmer that the lender cannot see from any one individual source, from any one individual company. So by doing that, and by doing it at scale, the important thing is doing it at scale. If you can't solve it if you're going to take 1 week to do a credit assessment, because there are 100 million farmers. So doing it within a few minutes, doing it across the country, those are critically needed. And that's the area that we are focused on, working with ARTPARC and Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, along with other partners like NASSCOM, COE, Satshore, Cropin, Samunati, etc., to come to grips with this.
Okay. Roli, how challenging is this endeavor really to get put together this data exchange that Nipun is talking about? Because it seems to me that some sort of policy interventions might be required. Maybe regulatory changes need to be made as well. And, what all really is needed to ensure that, this becomes a reality?
Good question, Gautam. See, databases exist, like, you asked your previous question. But the problem is that they exist in silos across government departments, and that too in different states and central governments. So access is actually a huge issue. I don't think it's only policy, because from a policy standpoint, a lot of databases are already in the public domain. Still,
yes, even digitization of land records has been attempted, and that in itself is a Herculean task.
It's been done, but good that you mentioned land records. They're all in the public domain, so it's not a policy issue. But to access them in a meaningful way for us to, in an actionable way, is still quite challenging. And actually, collation of data remains one of the most difficult aspects for creating any meaningful content.
Okay.
Even though one government department actually wants us to access the data, so I'm saying it's not often a policy issue or a privacy issue. They themselves find it difficult to get it from another department. I'll give you an example. The new mapping policy clearly says that all maps made with public funds should be made readily available.
Okay.
Right? So it's not a policy issue, not a privacy issue, but on the ground, the situation remains quite different. So in answer to your question, I request and recommend very specifically 2 important agri data sets that should be placed on a common national agri database portal, open to all innovators, registered companies, universities, anybody who wants to access it. It should be made available. The first is geocoded yield data crop-wise. Every crop season, millions of crop cutting experiments are carried out. that data must be put on a common national agri database portal.
Okay.
Secondly, all geo-referenced cadastral maps and farm boundaries should be placed on this national agri data portal. If these two sets of data are made available, I can tell you it will give a great impetus to agri-tech companies and people who are looking, to build platforms on data in the
Okay.
agri-tech space.
Okay, Pradeep, would you like to add something to that? Because I know Nipun wants to come in very quickly.
Right. Well, while I completely agree with what Crowley is saying regarding accessibility of land records and all this public data, but it kind of also creates issues around data privacy and also data theft, misuse, etc. If it is not, if such a system, open data system, is not created with the proper data management, data access policies. So that is where I think a policy intervention is required for organizations to freely exchange data. In order to do that, 1 hour credit assessment, as Nipun mentioned, there has to be data exchange models and modules which are built, and only the government can spearhead such an initiative, because it would be the similar scale of what Aadhaar was.
Nipun, I think you're involved in that process, completely. So just tell us, what kind of progress has there been on these sort of measures that will really then maximize the benefits of what everyone here is at least trying to do?
So I'll divide that into two parts. What progress has not happened, for example, I mean, because agriculture is a state subject, startups have to go state by state and take policy approvals to share data. Sometimes, and some startups have mentioned that it can take up to a year to get access to data. So that's one. Second, where it becomes available, sometimes it is as expensive as 2,000 rupees per picture frame, a satellite frame as an example, right? And now, but again, if I look at the positive side, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Odisha, etc., have actually come up with a reasonably well-defined data sharing process. Madhya Pradesh has also done that, but it's very expensive. Punjab and Haryana, on the other hand, while they want to share data and are willing to do that, but have not come up with a policy. So again, it becomes an operational nightmare for people to go and navigate that process. I think it was really mentioning some other time when I was speaking to her that, even the coordination between two ministerial departments like Ministry of Aviation and Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry of Agriculture needs data from drones for harvesting, for checking on the progress of harvesting, as an example. But by the time you get the approval through Ministry of Civil Aviation, 6 months can pass, and therefore the harvesting season is over. So some of those operational issues, I think, come in the way, and therefore it may be worthwhile for the government to consider a model policy on data sharing that can then be replicated and rolled out state by state.
And you're working with Niti Aayog as well on this overall objective of tripling farmers' income. What do the folks there have to say?
We are talking to them. Certainly, they're very encouraging. They're very interested in kind of coming together and thinking about how should those data.
So is the principal scientific advisor, I believe.
The principal scientific advisor has given us access to the agri databases so that we can test them out and we can work on them on the farm credit project that we are on. But one more suggestion that I have been giving to the government is that I think we need a regulatory sandbox. Agriculture does not have a sandbox, unlike fintech, unlike insurance, as an example. And therefore, we need a hybrid sandbox which focuses on regulation as well as innovation, which allows the states to preemptively work on policies that might need some changing to encourage the innovation that is happening around them, or fix the policies that are actually inhibiting startups, as an example. But we do definitely need a sandbox.
And you've had some success in getting clients abroad as well, Prateek. I believe that is one reason that your company has grown quite dramatically in a short period of time. The 7x figure stands out, I believe, in a period of 7 months or something. So how has it been how has that experience been, in Southeast Asian countries, and whether that experience will it have any relevance for, in our case as well, in the case of this federal structure that we have in the country?
Well, interestingly, I would say in terms of digitization and adoption of new digital tools, India is definitely much ahead in this entire region. So, on the contrary, we are taking our experiences of working with large Indian corporates, banks, etc., to the Southeast region.
Okay.
But one thing which I have noticed is very good is most of them have through maybe grant support or government support, they have created proper databases of different kinds of data sets that affect agriculture, like weather data, land record, cadastral data, shape files. For example, in India, getting the village boundaries is also a big problem. So those things are very frequently updated. It's not just about putting it together one time, but maintaining it regularly so that services can be drawn. So that approach has to be also taken in India, I believe.
Okay. The elephant in the room is, of course, really privacy and the issue of data reliability. People also tend to treat data almost like an intellectual property that they patented, and they don't want to share it. It's like domain knowledge, as you would call it. But this is where perhaps people need to realize that if data is pooled and data from one source, if it is given some sort of a garb that you cannot really identify the source of it, perhaps that can be a force multiplier.
Yes, it will be. I already, partially touched upon it in my previous comment, where, we have to make a distinction between two kinds of data. One is really the data that is, fact-based. I mean, you measure yield in a farm, you measure it, the government is paying for it. It's public data.
It's on public record.
It's up there for everybody. Now, if I, as a company, I'm developing some algorithms, I'm using some IP, and generating some analytics-driven data or some insights, or if I'm able to assign a particular farmer to, let's say, a credit rating A, B, or C, let that be my kind of intellectual property, or let that be my my data. But we must make the distinction between data that kind of spurs innovation. That really would be my point. About privacy, I want to say that we in general work with public databases, whether it is satellite or weather, and any data related to individual farmers is, if you're working with a bank or an insurance company, it's protected through confidentiality agreements with clients.
Okay.
And, Prateek was also mentioning about, manipulation or, our company has a clearly stated policy of never misrepresenting or manipulating data. We put that up front, and we are well known for it, and our clients are also very well aware of this policy. So I think it is a combination of, policy frameworks as well as, individual corporate responsibility. But trust is going to drive the space. If we have to drive this space in a force multiplier, like you mentioned, then trust has to be the defining kind of guideline.
So that's where the conundrum comes in, doesn't it, Nipun? One is to let market forces do their own thing, and let the ecosystem itself figure out a way that to make it work best. And the other is to have the government come in and put some sort of a framework together, put in a regulator as well. This is the two ways that this can go. Which one is preferable for the entire ecosystem? Because you're looking at that aspect as well.
First of all, in a complex sector like agriculture, you cannot have either one side trying to solve the problem on their own. neither the private sector, neither the government on their own. So we definitely need to build those models and frameworks where both of them partner with each other and kind of collaborate. And that's an attempt from our side in everything that we do, including farm credit. You mentioned the PSS office has been very supportive in giving us access to data. It is for the same reason. Back to the earlier point that you were discussing, yes, privacy is super important. We need to ensure business accountability as well, where data processing happens. And even though farmers may not truly understand or appreciate the issue of data privacy, that doesn't mean that we do not protect their privacy.
Yeah, they can't be taken for granted.
Absolutely. So, but at the same time, we definitely need to establish norms and standards for data interoperability in agriculture, things like standardization of data, calibration of data, certification of data as an example. So when Rolly says that this farm, in this particular farm, in her assessment, the yield is 50 tons and Pradeep says it's 45 tons. How do you decide who's right? So you need to think about, certification of data sets accordingly in that manner.
Okay. And what kind of a time frame are you realistically looking at, to make all this happen so that, the changes in agriculture, the revolutionary changes that you're talking about, they do indeed happen?
Well, that's a very good question, Gautam. It is unfortunately a long haul. It is going to be the long haul. It is going to take years before we can put our arms around it as a country. It doesn't mean that we can't have early successes and small wins as we go along. We must. But in terms of truly embracing digitization and truly embracing technologies and making India globally a leader in agri-innovation will take us 10, 15 years. Right. And in the process, I think we can rejuvenate Indian agriculture as well. You can't just be an innovator and not, and have a sector which is a laggard.
Well, I sense that there is a hesitancy in doing that for a number of reasons. But as long as, mutual trust can be built, I guess that hesitancy can be leapfrogged as well. And very soon, if the moment you cross a particular Rubicon, I guess the jump will come in on its own, and we're all looking forward to that happening. Thank you so much for joining us today over here in India Ideas and talking about it.
Thank you.